Hey everyone in Mr. Cheese Grade 10 Life Sciences class. Welcome to this explainer where we're going to dive deep into Chapter 8 of your textbook. Have you ever stopped to think about how our planet is basically one giant, living, breathing thing? Well, today we're going on a journey. We're going to zoom in on our world from the biggest possible picture right down to the tiny engines that make it all work. Let's get into it.
So yeah, this is the big question for today. And I mean, really think about it for a second. How does everything from the deepest part of the ocean to the top of Mount Everest all connect and work together? How is it one system? That's exactly what we're here to unpack. All right, let's start our cosmic zoom. I want you to imagine you can just pull back way out into space until the whole blue marble of Earth is just floating there in front of you. What you're looking at isn't just rock and water and clouds. You're seeing a world wrapped in this incredibly thin, fragile layer of life.
And there's a name for that living layer, the biosphere. The idea is actually super simple. It's everything that's alive. Every little microbe, every blade of grass, every whale, and yeah, every single one of us. All of it together, we form the living, breathing skin of our planet.
But here's the thing. This living skin isn't just floating there by itself. Nope. It's in a constant dance with three other massive planetary systems. You've got the hydrosphere, that's all the water, the lithosphere, which is the solid ground, the crust, and the atmosphere, the whole blanket of air surrounding us. And the most important word here is interacting. None of these works on its own. They're all connected.
And you can see this domino effect perfectly with something like deforestation. It all starts with one action in the biosphere, right? Cutting down trees. But that immediately impacts the lithosphere, because now there's nothing holding the soil in place, so it starts to erode. Well, that loose soil washes into rivers, which messes up the hydrosphere. And since there are fewer trees to soak up carbon dioxide, the composition of the atmosphere itself begins to change. See? A perfect chain reaction.
Okay, time to zoom in a bit. We're going from the entire global biosphere down to what you can think of as the planet's different climate neighborhoods. We call them biomes. And to check them out, we're going to take a little tour of the incredible diversity we have right here in South Africa.
So, what's a biome exactly? Well, think of it as a massive area that has its own distinct personality. And the main thing that shapes that personality, the master architect, if you will, is the climate. The two big bosses are always going to be rainfall and temperature. They're what decide if a place is going to be a lush forest, a dry desert, or something else entirely.
Now this is what's so cool. Just within South Africa, we have 8 major, distinct land biomes. That is a massive variety of environments all packed into one country. It makes it the perfect place to see these different natural neighborhoods side by side. Let's just look at 3 quick examples. Up north, you have the savanna, the bushveld, right? That classic big game country you see in movies. Then you've got the huge grasslands of the highveld, with super fertile soil that's basically our country's breadbasket. And then down in the Western Cape, you find the fynbos, a totally unique world of plants that is adapted to getting its rain in the winter. 3 completely different worlds.
And speaking of the fynbos, get this. This is wild. A staggering 75% of all of South Africa's rare and endangered plants are found only in this one biome. That's insane. It means the fynbos isn't just a local treasure, it's a globally critical hotspot for biodiversity.
Our zoom lens is getting even more powerful. We've gone from planet to biome, and now we're zooming right into a single local community, the ecosystem. This is where we get to see how all the individual players, the living and the non-living, actually work together on the ground.
So every ecosystem, and I mean every single one, has 2 halves that have to work together. You've got the biotic components, that's all the living stuff, plants, animals, fungi, and then you have the abiotic factors, the non-living stuff, the sunlight, the water, the soil, the temperature. You simply cannot have a healthy ecosystem unless both of these halves are in balance.
Okay, so we've got the living parts and the non-living parts, but what's the fuel? What makes it all go? Well, it all comes down to energy. And now we're going to follow that energy as it makes its way through the ecosystem. But first, you got to know the single most important rule about energy in an ecosystem. And it is a big one. At every single step up the food chain, a huge amount of energy gets lost. We're talking about 90%. Only about 10% of the energy makes it to the next level. This one rule, this is the reason why there's way more grass than impalas and way more impalas than leopards. Let's watch this rule play out. It all starts with a producer, a plant, capturing energy from the sun. Then, a primary consumer, our impala, eats that plant. But it only gets about 10% of that original solar energy. Then, a secondary consumer, a leopard, eats the impala, and it only gets 10% of the impala's energy. Finally, when the leopard dies, decomposers like bacteria break it all down. They return the nutrients to the soil, but notice the energy is gone. It doesn't get recycled. It's a one-way street.
So let's just quickly recap those essential jobs. The producers, they're the makers. They bring the energy into the system from the sun. The consumers, they're the movers. They transfer that energy around by eating things. And the decomposers, they are the master recyclers. They break down all the dead stuff and return the raw ingredients to be used again.
Now, of course, in the real world, it's not usually a neat straight line like that. Most of the time, you've got complex food webs. A single animal might eat a few different kinds of plants, and it might get hunted by a few different predators. All of those connections create a kind of safety net, which makes the whole system a lot more stable and able to bounce back from problems. So we've seen that energy is kind of a one-and-done deal. It flows through the system and then it's gone. But what about the actual stuff that life is built from? You know, the water, the carbon, the nitrogen. That stuff doesn't get lost. It gets recycled.
And that right there is the huge difference. Energy flows through an ecosystem, but nutrients, they cycle within it. The very same water molecule or carbon atom has been used over and over and over again for millions, even billions of years. Nothing is wasted. It's the ultimate recycling program. Let's just quickly follow a single drop of water on its journey. First, it has to get up into the air. Through evaporation from the ocean or transpiration from the leaves of plants, the sun's energy turns that liquid water into an invisible vapor, and it starts to rise. And as that warm vapor gets higher, it starts to cool down. It undergoes condensation, turning from a gas back into teeny tiny liquid droplets. And when millions of these droplets get together, they form the clouds we see in the sky.
And finally, when those little droplets combine and get heavy enough, we get precipitation. The water is released from the clouds and comes back to Earth as rain or snow or hail. It fills up the rivers and oceans, and it's ready to start that whole incredible journey all over again, a perfect, endless loop. So there you have it. We've gone from a view of the entire planet's living skin, the biosphere, down through South Africa's amazing biomes, right into a local ecosystem. We've followed the one-way street of energy and the endless recycling loop of nutrients. And the one big idea that ties it all together? It's that everything is connected. So I want to leave you with this final question to think about. Now that you can see all these connections, I want you to look around your own world. In your neighborhood, maybe even on your own street. What do you think is the biggest way humans are impacting the ecosystem right where you live? Really think about it.